Okay, here we go. Kinesiology 223, Chapter 19, Exercise Behavior and Adherence, Presentation 5. Let's get going. So the book jumps into this and they talk about research being specific to exercise can be kind of broken into two main broad categories, personal factors and environmental factors. And I don't know, it's kind of interesting. You can kind of see a little bit over here to the right. The book presents that, and then they kind of transition into this where they talk about an extensive review of it looks like an extensive review of literature to investigate the things that correlate to physical activity. And much like the adults, um, the items on the list kind of correlate well to increased physical activity for youth. So I think we can all agree and kind of roll with that in terms of, we've talked in terms of demographics, the psychological, the behavioral, the social structural component, and the environmental. And I'm not sure why the book jumped into this at this part of the chapter. I'm not sure why, but I just wanted to point that out, and I'm going to jump back into this. And we look at the personal factors. You have demographic variables, cognitive and personality variables, and behaviors. And demographic variables are kind of like they list as positive, and it's the level of education, income level, and socioeconomic status, meaning the higher level of education, the more likely you are to adhere to an exercise program. Income level, socioeconomic status, the higher those are, the more likely you are. So they're positively correlated to exercise outcomes. So they look at this and they break these out in terms of each, and you can go ahead and read through some of these, but one can understand in terms of perhaps if you have a level of education, maybe you have a greater understanding or ability to process the benefits of adhering to an exercise program. Or if you have a high enough income level, you're paying for a health club or gym membership, and that gives you a economic perspective in terms of a cost every month that you're paying for the ability to remain physically fit. Socioeconomic side of it. When you look at socioeconomics, they list here many barriers have been identified for those with low socioeconomic status. These include chronic stress, depression, food insecurity, homelessness, crime and unsafe neighborhoods, a lack of transportation, and underemployment or unemployment. I mean, all very realistic things that can keep somebody from being fit. And the book itself, they break these out in terms of how these are end results of the lower socioeconomic status. So in some regard, you can say, well, fitness will make you feel better, fitness will make you feel great. But if you are stuck in this socioeconomic or demographic trick bag, if you will, you might have food insecurity. You might be homeless. You might be living in a neighborhood that's like crime infested, and it's a challenge just to go out of your house, let alone go to the gym. So, and you don't have a way to get there. So you can just imagine the different variables or barriers that can be in place for different people. And what was interesting here is they note that males have a higher participation rate than females. And we've already talked about this before, that physical activity decreases with age. And I would say that you probably, as you age, want to have continued physical activity. And then, no surprise, overweight and obese individuals are less likely to be involved with physical activity. And again, it's one of those things where they're probably some of the people that are most likely to need it. And I would say that, you look at these demographic variables, you're kind of left to question how you can reach out to these individuals to try to pull them in to derive the benefits of being fit. And I just thought this was interesting. You have this case study where it's like black females decreased their physical activity by 100%, completely stopped between the ages of 10 and 19, whereas white females decreased physical activity by 64%. But the results have shown the barriers to exercise were similar between white and non-white individuals, although the populations differed in other determinants of exercise. I just thought that was kind of interesting in terms of you had a full 100% evaporation of participation for this group, and they show that the barrier of exercisers were similar. So you start to look at it in terms of where did that come from? Where does that happen? From a study standpoint, that's a great area of opportunity for a study. Cognitive and personality variables. Self-efficacy, we've talked about that 100 times. You know, the belief that they can perform the desired behavior. If a person believes they can't do the workout, or if they have the perception that others are viewing them and evaluating them that they can't do the workout, then it becomes a totally different conversation in terms of their ability to perform an exercise, or if they're being judged on whether or not they can perform the exercise. Self-motivation reflects, self-regulatory skills such as goal setting and self-monitoring, being able to just get out of bed in the morning, put a baseball hat on, and go to the gym before you go to work. These are things, when you start talking about self-efficacy, is just a simple belief that a person can do it and they have the discipline to do it. It's that straightforward. And you look at this and you go, okay, the cumulative body of evidence supports this, that the expectations of benefits from exercise are associated with the increased physical activity levels and adherence to structured physical activity programs. It's a virtuous cycle. You have to believe you can before you can. And so I would say, as a practitioner, you really have to spend some time here in helping your people understand that yes, they can do, and spend some time to help them understand that yes, they can, and they can also derive the benefits from regular physical activity. This is one of the ways to overcome one of the great barriers that you have within physical activity, that many people think they can't in the first place, so they never ever try. Within behaviors, exercise program persistence is dependent upon if the participant is previously involved in an exercise program for 6 months. I know this is something I brought up earlier. There's a relationship there in terms of if somebody has worked out for 6 months, they're more than likely to be active a year or two later. And I would contest that I agree with that statement. I think that makes a lot of sense, and logically it just makes sense anyways, right? You're already in the habit of working out and you're already in the process of going to the gym every day and doing some kind of activity at home or walking in the park, whatever it may be. It's easy to continue that behavior. So the key element in predicting later physical activity is that the individual has developed a fairly recent habit of being physically active during their adult years. Doesn't matter what type or frequency of physical activity, right? Now, what's interesting here is active children who receive parental encouragement for physical activity will be more active as adults than children who are inactive and do not receive parental support. So if you're a parent and you want your child to be active, you need to encourage your children to be active, and then they therefore will probably be more likely, to be active as adults. So guys, I'm going to break out of this and go into the next presentation.